I'm going to be completely honest with you because I think it's maybe worthwhile for people to hear this.
Okay, we're listening.
You're going to think it's like, who did you have sex with to get this job story?
Oh,
and
God.
it is. No.
Oh.
So Omari, no. So back when I first auditioned for this, the way I got this audition, I think, is the casting director who cast this, or the pilot, she had cast the movie 42, right?
Okay.
And I didn't get that movie, but I was really close to getting that. And so I knew her pretty well.
Okay.
Because I played baseball. That was my first passion, was baseball.
All right.
Anyway, so I came in for Power, and I auditioned for Tommy.
Wow.
I know.
I can't imagine you canceling Christmas.
No, of course not. No, of course not. Because to be honest, it's like, it's funny. Casting is so important, and when I'll say this in a minute. I'll say that in a second. So I went in for Tommy, and met with Vicki Thomas, who cast it, and then she brought me back, and I met some producers, and then she brought me back again, and that's when I met Courtney and David Knoller, who was a producer at the time, and I knew at the time, I was like, this isn't my casting. This is not, but I was like, but I'm an actor, so I'm gonna be Tommy, right? I told you I'm from a farm, right? I grew up on a farm, so like I'm being streetwise Tommy here, but I did what I did, and I put on what I could put on, and owned it as much as I could, and didn't hear shit for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, it was just silence, and then they brought me in for Greg Knox.
Interesting.
Played by Andy Bean. He was the cop that had the relationship with Angela early on.
I was about to say, I know who Greg is.
Right. So I auditioned for that, and I was like, hey, well, this is closer to my casting. Kind of an all-American, like goody two-shoes. I said, but I feel like I'm kind of a little too much of a arrogant sort of dicky vibe. That's just my casting. I don't think that's who I am, but that's kind of how my casting is. I walk in the room and people look at me and go, that guy's a dick. And I haven't even spoken yet. But with Greg Knox, Andy Bean, I think he has that sort of believer energy where he's like a real believer, and sincere and stuff like that. So anyway, I got it. When it comes to those two, when I sat down at the first table read and I saw Joe and I saw Andy Bean in those parts, I was like, totally, I totally get it. And so that was important for me as an actor to see sometimes why you don't get something, because Joe fits Tommy like a glove.
They have a better vision,
or the other way around. So
the fans want to see your audition of Tommy. I think we all want to see this.
You know what? I think I have it somewhere, like me at home, like videotaping myself practicing and stuff so that I can see what it looked like. I think I have that somewhere. But then a few more weeks came by. Oh, and here's the part that I'm gonna admit that is like slightly embarrassing, but it's the truth. It's about dreams. This is about dreams. I was at the unemployment office, right? And I'm in there listening to this lecture, because you have to. They're like, you have to come listen to this lecture, fill out this thing, make sure that you can, it's so demeaning. And I'm dressed like shit. And then from there, after this hour-long BS that I had to listen to for unemployment, I go out and I get my Ford Taurus, which my wife hated my Ford Taurus. It's like the door had been smashed in. It had the wrong colored door on it. It was a piece of shit. And I get in my Ford Taurus and change into my only suit that looked decent, and drove to the audition for Cooper Saxe. And once I read the sides for Cooper Saxe and I saw kind of the vibe he was, it was twofold. It was like, oh, they finally have seen where I belong, because they've been auditioning me for these other things, which meant that they obviously liked me and they wanted to find something for me. And I also was like, this is the guy. This is who I am, And
Wow.
so you know, a few weeks later, prior to actually having to fill out any unemployment crap, thank God,
That
um,
is crazy.
I got the call, filling it like my last $50 filling up my gas tank,
Wow.
and that, seriously, I was filling up my gas tank, and my agent called me and said, "You got the job."
Aw, that is amazing. Like that's a
Pretty wild, right?
really, that's like that's a feel good moment. Like the fact that you were on your last, you had the beat up
Felt like that,
car.
yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. You have to release the tapes. So
Release the tapes.
we want to see those tapes. I'm not gonna let you forget. I'm gonna message you tomorrow. I'm like, hey, those tapes.
God, that would
I
be
need you
actually
some
that.
time to
You know
find
what?
them though.
That would be a really cool thing for the Power universe to do, is like to release
Yes.
all the auditions that everybody laid down for characters. I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be
Right.
great. You know,
So,
to see how
um,
things advanced over time. Yeah. So what do you got? What you got?
that okay. So, now that we have talked to Shane, can you please go get Cooper Saxe for me?
Okay.
Because the people want to talk to Cooper Saxe. Let me know when you got him.
I mean, it's the transition between Shane and Cooper Saxe is pretty subtle.
Pretty slim.
You probably won't even notice it. I mean, usually I have to either take my shirt off or put a suit on, one of the two.
Okay, well, we're gonna dive right into Power, everybody's favorite. As I already told you, you're definitely have been one of my favorite characters. A lot of people don't like you, but I have always thought you have brought a lot of comedy to the show. So before we get into your character, I just wanted to play this or that Power version. Okay.
This or that. Okay, got it.
Yeah, this or that. So I'm gonna give you two options, give you the scenario, and you got to pick between the characters. Okay.
B.
All right. So who would you rather represent you in court, Proctor or Davis?
That's good. That's a good question. Uh, Proctor.
I would choose Proctor too. I think yeah, I love Proctor.
First of all, Proctor's going to be way cheaper. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Davis is very expensive.
Davis won't touch you unless you come in with stacks of like cash too. He wants cash. It's like, what kind of lawyer is he?
Right.
He's like $500K, or I'm not talking to you. It's like, whoa. Are you breaking up? Are we? I'm having a little trouble hearing you, I think.
Uh-oh. I think we're breaking up. Are we good?
Yeah. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. I think it was freezing just a little bit. Who would you want to have your back in a gunfight? Ghost or Tommy?
Tommy. Yeah.
I don't know if Joe's still watching, but I would have chose Tommy too.
Yeah, Tommy, because Ghost, I mean, Ghost is an incredible character, and obviously we all love Ghost and all that. But Ghost is also the guy that at the end of the day, he's going to look out for numero uno. Whereas Tommy's all heart and loyalty, and he would be the guy that would, if you got nailed and you were like pinned down, he'd come back for you. Whereas Ghost would be like, it's been nice knowing you, buddy, but like, I got to do me,
Right.
you know?
Okay, so you're stuck on an island for 1 week with no one to talk to but this one person. Lobos or Vincent?
Oh my God, I love them both so much. I would have to say Lobos. I mean, because if nothing else, he's just going to be insanely
He's
entertaining.
hilarious. I love
But Joe
Lobos.
Perino is such a dear friend of mine. But he would just be like Joe Perino would be like Vincent would make you do all the work on the island. Like, give me a coconut or whatever. Whereas Lobos would just be like, let's get in the water. Let's do something fun. Let's climb a tree. You know, he's like, he'd be weird. It would be a weird experience. I would go with Lobos.
Okay, so you and your wife have to go out of town for a week, and you need a babysitter. Yeah? You need a babysitter. Oh, so whose house are you sending your kids to? The Tejadas or the Jimenez?
Oh my God. I would say the Tejadas, because and here's my reasoning. The Tejadas, she will do anything for those kids. She cares for she'll protect those kids like she's a mama bear. Whereas the Jimenez, if you notice, they turn on each other.
Oh, yeah. That's a good
and they'll take out a kid too. I think they actually killed a kid. Didn't they? Didn't they kill someone's kid at one point?
No.
Are you sure?
I think you're making that up.
Okay, well then they should have. They should have.
Okay, so you can only save one of your coworkers, Angela or Greg.
And they're both dead, so clearly I did a terrible job of saving both of them.
You felt miserably, but if you could have.
If I wasn't such a failure in power, Greg. I mean, see, the thing with Cooper is that Greg was actually like, Cooper doesn't really have friends,
Right.
Like
other than Mock, probably.
Right, but John Mock, who's played by Sung, who's actually a very dear friend of mine, but Sung doesn't necessarily, or Mock doesn't necessarily like Cooper. So a lot of it's funny because it's that way with a lot of Cooper Saxe's relationships. He thinks people like him and he thinks that they're friends. Like Tamika Washington, he thinks that they're cool. And she's like, no, we're not cool.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't like
I don't like you. And I'm like, yeah, you like me. And she's like, no, I don't.
No, I don't think nobody likes you.
So I think that he thought, Cooper felt that Greg Knox was like his actual friend. And the thing with Angela is he kind of wanted, Cooper wanted to have sex with her, but he didn't necessarily like her.
Yeah.
Like it would have been angry sex. It would have been angry choke sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm just being honest.
Hey, being honest. I'm talking to Saxe here. We're not talking to Shane, by the way.
That's right. This is not Shane. This is all art. It's all art.
This
so
is
I can say anything I want.
I'm talking to, okay? All right. Shane is married. Saxe is a lonely man.
Amen.
Okay, so Saxe, who would you trust more with a secret, Holly or Keisha?
Holly. Yeah, Holly was down for like the weirdest shit. Like Tommy would show up with, blood all over him and like spent cartridges and a gun and like hair, someone else's hair, and she'd be like, "Let's clean that off of you." Whereas Keisha was more like
emotional.
Yeah, and kind of, and she was also like going, "Shit, should I betray people?" She was really questioning betraying people. Like, remember, she packed a bag.
Oh yeah.
Holly never packed a bag.
That's true. Okay.
I've answered every one of these questions correctly.
Well, let's see how you do this one.
Uh-oh.
Whose paper would you cheat off of during the test? Tariq or Lauren?
I mean, that's a good one. I'm going to go with Lauren. She's kind of teacher's pet. And so that she's going to, even though I think Tariq is smarter.
Me too.
And I know that Tariq's character is smarter than Lauren's, but with Lauren, she knows what the teacher wants to hear.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Tariq is kind of that abrasive, like, F you, this is a more interesting answer, deal with it. And Lauren's more like, but this is what the teacher wants to hear, Tariq,
Okay.
So Lauren.
All right, and last question for a little this or that. Who is the teacher of the year? Professor Milgram or Professor Reynolds?
Teacher of the year?
Yeah. They're both great, right?
I mean, I love them both. Justin and Melanie are both fantastic. But the humans, the teachers were like very questionable at best. Both of them sleeping with students, sleeping with each
I mean, you're
other.
the one to judge anybody on ethics. But continue. Continue, sir.
Take it easy. Take it easy. So teacher of the year. I would go with Milgram.
Okay. Yeah, I think Milgram actually cares a little more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because you have Jabari who's trying to capitalize on one of his students'
Right.
pain. You know, he's trying to capitalize on the awful crap that has happened to Tariq, whereas Carrie is trying to take care of him. So I would have to go with Carrie.
Okay. So now, that was just a little fun, little introductory. So now we're just going to talk all things power. First of all, I want to say congratulations on the NAACP Image Award for Best Drama Series. It was
Isn't that amazing?
well deserved. I was
And
really happy.
I was so happy, and I was also like, and this is the competition was no bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys were up against some great competition. And I've always said, I feel like you guys should have been winning every year. So I'm glad to see you guys finally getting your flowers. Amazing.
Because Lovecraft, I don't know if you've seen Lovecraft Country, but
I haven't watched it yet, but my friends told me it's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. And also This Is Us. I mean, we had some competition. Huh?
Yeah, you did. You did. That congratulations was for Shane. Okay.
Oh.
Now I'm about to start back talking to Cooper now.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Sorry.
All right. So definitely, as you're one of the OGs, the longest, one of the longest characters left on Power. So, Saxe, are you surprised that you're still here? Like, you're not dead. You didn't get burned to death. You don't have a bullet in your chest. Like, are you surprised that you're still here after 8 long years?
That's a yes and no That's a yes and no answer, because when when I was reading the script about where Tommy comes in and ghosts come into my apartment and I'm in the middle of masturbating, and which has happened so many times, and they came in and put a gun to my head and a bag over my head and were choking me out, and I mean I was reading that going like, how could they not like give me a heads up that they were gonna kill me off right now? This is I mean, my heart was racing. I was reading it, and then I was like, oh, okay, fine. Ghost saves me right at the end. But yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, like you said, I can look around the office. Like, there was a great line that I say that Tamika, she's just such an amazing actress. But when I say to her something about, who do all these people have in common? All these dead people on the board, right?
Oh, we're getting to that.
And I said, James St. Patrick. She goes, and you. And I was like, oh my God.
No, don't worry, Sass. We're getting to that. We're going to get into that.
All right, I'll shut up. Did I answer the question?
You did. You did.
Okay.
Okay, Shane, really quick. What do you like most about playing Cooper Saxe?
I like the humor, and I like sort of finding. I like that I get to find unique ways of looking at material and scenes that's not like on the nose. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've been able to really approach everything from like a little bit like Cooper kind of looks at things like this, and most of the characters are looking at things pretty head on. And so I would say that I get to have fun, that I get to kind of have a skewed perspective and be a little twisted and have humor and and be an asshole. I mean, it's fun to be an asshole.
You're really good at that. You're really good at that.
But Cooper doesn't think he's an asshole, for the record. He thinks that he's in the right. But
always.
But he's an asshole.
Well, back to Saxe. Do you see yourself as an antagonist?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. Here's what I'll tell you. You asked me a few questions ago. You said, "Are you surprised that Saxe is still alive after all this?" And here's the thing: I am. And in terms of being an antagonistic character, I do think that that if you took Cooper Saxe out of the picture, it does take something away from the overall, you know,
Yeah,
energy and painting
yeah.
of the show.
I think we
Now,
have a
some
love-hate relationship.
yeah, because some people might be like, "Oh, kill that motherfucker right now, get rid of him." But I also feel like, and they may feel vindicated and excited when when or if it happened, but then immediately afterward they'd be like, it's a little bit less interesting now.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I think.
And that, and as I told you, you were my favorite. I also loved Angela and Lobos. I thought those characters all brought something, different to the show. Would you say if anyone else was an antagonist in the show? Do you have anyone else that you would say is an antagonist?
Well, I would argue that season 1 through 6, or maybe 2 through 6, that Tariq is an antagonist. You know, now people might disagree; they may see it differently. But Tariq, every 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 decision that boy made, every decision he made in power was wrong. Like everything he did complicated the life for his parents and for his family. Every and I understand why he did it emotionally, but it was just like,
Yeah, I
and
just
that's
thought
why
he was misunderstood.
people in the street were just like, I want to kill this kid. Somebody needs to sit that kid down and spank him, you know. And I think it was funny because when Vincent, talked about Vincent earlier, when Vincent beat him up and kicked his ass with the oranges or whatever it was that they were beating him with stuff,
The sack of oranges.
yeah, the response from like Twitter and Instagram and everybody like online was like, oh, thank God, yes, I have wanted to, this was so cathartic. I have wanted to beat this child for so long. And but that being said, he obviously makes a transition so beautifully and so powerfully, and
Yes.
it timed out so perfectly, because he's also going from being a boy to a man, and the actor and the character, and so it timed out beautifully. Anybody else? Angela.
And don't talk about my girl now.
She was an antagonist for a
No,
while. I
she
mean, because listen,
wasn't. Angela was the hero. A lot of you just didn't see it. She
she
was the
was trying
hero.
to, at times, but at times she's trying to take down Ghost too, right?
Yeah, and so were
Isn't
you.
Ghost the hero? Isn't Ghost the hero?
Okay.
I mean, not
That,
anymore, but
okay, so that takes me into my next point. I want to know, what was the reasoning, or like what was up with the obsession that Saxe has with the St. Patrick's? Like, can you explain that? Like, what was up with this? Like, was it an ego thing? Like, I'm just trying to, so obsessed from season 1 to 6. Like, just gotta get Ghost, gotta get Ghost. So, can you kind of give us a little insight of what, why Saxe is so obsessed with the St. Patrick's?
secretly in love with Tasha.
No,
No.
that's something
No, I would
that's
say
something.
I would say this. It's like it started off as something. It started off as a case, like another case, right?
Mm-hmm.
That had the complexity, a fairly complex case, but that seemed like, okay, well, here's the logical conclusion to this case. We're going to convict him, and he's going to go to jail because I know he's guilty of all this stuff. And then he like slips through our fingers, and some people might be able to just let that go, but Cooper Saxe is like, whoa, that no way, this guy's got to go down for this. And then the case comes back, and it gets even more delicious because there's more layers to it now, and he's got more invested because he's put more time and heart and energy into it, and now it's more personal. People have died. When like Greg dies, and then eventually when Angela dies, it just becomes more and more personal. It's like I become like I'm like a vigilante almost. Like I'm like when I think, which culminates in me showing up with a gun, going, I'll have to do this myself, I guess. you know? It's like the
Yeah.
justice system. Cooper is like, because Cooper is a believer in the justice system. And the first like 3, 4 seasons of Power, I never break the law. I might be a dick and I might be like hard to deal with and argumentative or whatever, but I never break the law. And I always am right, by the way. Like
Yeah, that
you might be
actually.
rooting for Ghost and Tommy and all those guys, but everything I say, well, I think it's this and I think he's that. And it's like all that stuff's right. I can just never prove it. And so
Right.
eventually Cooper's just like losing his mind going like, are you kidding me? Like I know. So then I start planting evidence. I start
Yeah. And
getting
so,
guns.
and
Like
I
you
was
got to
gonna
make
say,
things work.
it seems like in the beginning, Saxe seamlessly starts off doing his job correct in the earlier seasons. And then he pretty much turns into a criminal. So it's like the irony of it all, right? So you've caused a lot of trouble, Saxe, and you've caused a few deaths.
I mean,
I
a
know I've been
few,
following you for a very
a
long
few.
time, and you would post stuff saying, "Oh, not my fault, not my fault." So, do you feel
That was
Saxe has
fun.
been responsible for any deaths? Because if you say no, don't worry, I'm going to remind you. So, I'm gonna give you a chance to come clean, Mr. Saxe. Do you feel you have been responsible for any deaths on Power at all?
Um,
Be honest now. Tell the truth. Say the
absolutely,
devil.
absolutely. I think that the main one that he's guilty for, like directly guilty for, is Angela.
Yeah,
Um,
I have to
because he
forgive
knew
you for that.
because I knew better than to like release her. And I was trying to like by releasing her, I was going, oh well, we'll keep tabs on her and we'll be able to, gain more information or catch her tripping up or whatever, and then that'll help us with the case. I should have never. Once we indicted her, once we were like, you're going down. We'll give you 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That those 20